Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Miami Township Board of Trustees to order on May 4th, 2026, 5 p.m. First bit of business is the agenda approval. I have one thing to add, and that is that on behalf of the fire chief, he would like to, we have a full-time firefighter who's moving on, and he has someone he would like to appoint for his place. So I'd like to add that to the fire department, the fire report.
I so move.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, may we vote?
Been moved and seconded to add an agenda item under the fire report, hiring a new full-time firefighter. Ms. Aslam?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Anything else for the agenda? Next, I would entertain a motion for the adoption of the minutes of April 20th, 2026.
I so move.
Second.
Any further discussion about the meeting minutes? Hearing none, may we vote?
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the minutes of April 20th, 2026 as presented. Ms. Aslam?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
And it's adopted.
This time, any correspondence that anybody would like to bring up? Either of the trustees have any correspondence you'd like to talk about?
I have none.
I have none. This time, if there are any citizens concerned that you would like to speak on for 3 minutes or less to possibly add to a later agenda.
Yes,
Joanne?
we'll go into specifics when Chief does his thing as well, but we've been meeting about it. It's a year now since we had our last EMS Appreciation Week. And so we're moving on, providing that again to our firefighters. So we'll have a banner, and we're gonna do a barbecue and a couple other little things around the logo and stuff. But I would like to ask the trustees if they would be willing to, one, participate, and then the other, if there's a possibility of having some sort of financial contribution to assist me in getting that stuff done.
Would voting on that by the next meeting be soon enough?
When's the next meeting?
20th.
The what?
No, it'll be the 18th,
The 8th.
May 18th.
Yeah, I won't be here. I will have already bought everything at that point. So if you want to, I mean, if you guys decide you're gonna do it, and just you reimburse me, then I guess will feel lucky I got reimbursed. That'll be good.
It just, our new policy is that we don't
Right.
make appropriations on the same night.
Yeah.
It's not on the agenda.
I predict a high likelihood that you will be reimbursed.
I think we can. And what week is that?
We're doing the barbecue on the 12th because all of the firefighters will be here anyway. That's
Okay.
gonna be in the afternoon on like a Wednesday, I believe. But it's actually that following week is the official EMS Appreciation Week.
Oh,
30, 40, 50, 60.
So it would be the
18th.
18th.
Yeah.
So the 18th through 19th, 20, 21, 22. Okay,
that's.
thank you, Kellyanne.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate your work and awareness on that. That's helpful.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to open a public hearing for, reopen. We have tabled the public hearing and we are reopening it for zoning resolution and text amendments, phase 3.
And last phase. So hello trustees, this is the last 3 text amendments of the 15 that are part of the Ohio grant that we got in working with regional planning. Michelle Hudnell is here again today, and we'll probably be chiming in if there's some concerns that I can't answer, which is a high likelihood of happening. All right, so we're going to talk about, trustees, we're going to talk about section 510, which is home occupation. Nope, I lied. I'm going to do accessory dwellings first, sorry. there's a reason to do it in this order.
Okay, so you're gonna start with home occupation?
I'm gonna start with accessory dwelling units, section 521.
Okay,
Apologize for that. Okay, so this entire section is new. There is nothing in the zoning resolution regarding accessory dwelling units. And just
okay.
to break down the terms, a dwelling is a home, accessory is in addition to, so this is another term you could use is a second home on the same property. So as you're looking at residential and agricultural areas, one of the permitted uses is obviously a single family home. This would allow our residents to put a second home on that same property, okay? So a lot of this I'm going to read verbatim just because it is new. Please, trustees, if you have any questions, please stop at any time. All right, so 521.1, the intent and purpose, which is important to put into each one of these because we just don't add things to the resolution. There needs to be a reason that we're adding it. So the intent and purpose of this article is to establish standards for the development of accessory dwelling units, ADUs, in order to increase housing flexibility, expand affordable housing options, and support multi-generational living arrangements. These provisions are intended to ensure that ADUs are compatible with existing neighborhood character and contribute positively to the overall housing mix within the township while protecting the health, safety, and welfare of the community. So that's the reason to add this officially. 521.2, accessory dwelling units. Where there is a need for a separate residential dwelling unit located on the same lot as the existing single-family dwelling unit, an accessory dwelling unit may be utilized to provide additional housing on a single-family residential lot. Such ADUs shall be incidental in size and used to the primary residential structure. So as you see, we'll get into that later, but it needs to be incidental. So you have your primary, and then your ADU should be a smaller, less intrusive structure. Only one ADU may be authorized on a single residential lot.
No matter how big.
Correct.
Oh, residential.
Well, it would, yes, that would happen in residential districts and agricultural districts, but yes, a residential lot. 521.3 are the different types. So there are basically two types. You can have a detached accessory dwelling unit, which is a standalone structure or part thereof that has been built or modified to become a separate dwelling unit. And B is the attached dwelling unit, a separate dwelling unit attached within or attached to the existing primary residential structure. These units include but are not limited to any existing basement, garage, or attic space that has been modified to become a dwelling space or an addition built onto an existing primary dwelling unit so that it extends the footprint of the primary dwelling unit. These units in the primary residential structure shall be distinct from a duplex that they shall have one combined address, shared utilities, and must be jointly conveyed. Does that make sense? We deal with this a lot, so I want to make sure you guys understand.
That's if it's connected. Only.
Correct, that's an attached.
Only if it's connected.
Yep, a detached would be separate. It would again still use the same primary address. You would not have a separate address. It would still use the same primary address. Where a duplex could have two addresses. Okay, 521.4 developmental standards. All accessory dwelling units shall comply with the following regulations. A, size limitations. The attached ADUs shall have a maximum gross floor not to exceed 75% of the total square footage of the principal dwelling. So the principal dwelling is already on the property first, because this would be an accessory building, and it cannot be up to 75% of that size. Number 2, I probably should be advancing this as I speak, right? Is that what you're getting ready to tell me, Michelle? I saw you. Yeah, I apologize to everyone. There's the developmental standards where we are right now. Just talked about the size, and now we're on to number 2. Detached ADUs shall have a maximum footprint not to exceed 75% of the total footprint of the principal dwelling, and only, again, this is stated again, only one ADU must be placed on a residential lot. That gets us to B, about the height. All attached and detached ACUs shall comply with the height restrictions applicable to the zoning district. The conversion for an existing structure that is non-conforming in height into an ADU shall be allowed as long as the nonconformity is not increased. So where this could happen is, let's say someone has a barn. Our height requirement in residential and agriculture is 35 feet. Well, everywhere, but 35 feet for a principal building. So if someone was to take a barn that was non-compliant, let's say it was 40 feet tall, and they want to convert that to an ADU, that can happen, but you can't build a separate one and say it's going to be larger, it's going to be 40 feet up in the air. Does that make sense? You can't break it, you can't get a variance to break it. So
Yep.
it allowed, if there is like a barn that somebody wanted to convert or a large building was already on there. So we added that piece. All right, C is setbacks. Advance this a little bit. All right, all the ADUs shall comply with all minimum front, side, and rear setback requirements for dwelling units within the applicable zoning district. Number 2, no new additions shall be built for the purpose of an attached ACU or ADU, which necessitates a variance from the minimum yard and setback requirements. So in other words, if you're adding addition to it, you can't also apply for a variance. Like, we're right at our side, but we're gonna make our addition 10 feet closer to that property line, which isn't allowed. You can't get a variance for that because you don't really have to build onto your ACU or ADU. Does that make sense? I didn't explain it well, but I hope that makes sense to you. Okay. Under D is design and access. All ADUs shall have a separate exterior entrance. Number 2, no separate address shall be provided to an ADU. Number 3, sufficient parking spaces shall be provided in accordance with section 603. Number 4, ADUs must receive all appropriate occupancy permits from local, county, state, building, and health departments. And number 5, all accessory dwelling units must be permanently sited. So permanently sited means it has a foundation and it's permanently there.
So
That would
even-
exclude mobile homes.
Even detached units don't have a separate address?
No, because you're only authorized that single family home, and then you're adding like an accessory structure, but this is an accessory dwelling that someone can live in, but it uses the same address.
Allowing an accessory dwelling unit to have a separate address would mean that you could convey it separately.
Yeah.
It kind of opens up some issues with it being one property and would allow people to split their lots down and increase your density. The idea of having them share an address is that it always stays one property still.
Because otherwise, if they had enough frontage, they could split it.
Yes, and why not split it if you have enough frontage and you want a separate address?
Yeah, which can't happen as long as you meet the requirements for that district. All right, E, utilities and services. ADU shall share utility connections with the principal dwelling. Number 2, whereas on-site wastewater collection system are used, which is everywhere that we have here in our township, the property owner must provide documentation verifying adequate septic capacity to serve both the additional dwelling unit and the primary. So that would be a requirement. And that takes us to F. Okay, all ADUs shall comply with the following occupancy requirements. ADUs may be rented or occupied by an individual or group without restriction as to the relationship to the occupants of the primary dwelling, provided the rental term is 30 days or more. So in other words, someone can live in their primary and then rent their ADU section or ADU unit. But it must be more than 30 days.
So it sounds like it can't be used for short-term rental.
It
Well, look
can,
at the
but
next
we'll
one.
get to
Okay,
that,
all
yeah.
right.
Number 2, the use of a permitted accessory dwelling unit as short-term rental shall require a separate conditional use permit as a short-term rental, which we're going to talk about next, as prescribed in section 512 of this resolution, pending that you guys approve it as well. Number 3, ADUs and their principal dwelling unit shall not be leased separately, nor shall they be conveyed separately or sold separately from the primary dwelling, which is what Michelle explained.
But the first part shall not be leased separately. Does that mean like one person couldn't own it and lease lease the house to somebody and they can't then lease the ADU to somebody else?
They could lease both, but it would need to be one rental agreement because it's one residential.
Okay,
That
right.
makes sense. So
if I owned a house and I wanted to rent it to Brian and he was living in the primary and his mother-in-law was living in the accessory dwelling unit and
Right,
I'm renting it to multiple parties, that's fine, but I have one rental agreement.
right,
Renting it out to him and then renting it out to somebody else
To a
that he doesn't
stranger.
know,
it's not okay.
not okay.
Yeah, I just making sure I understand the parameters.
Yeah.
Okay, that takes us to 521.5. Accessory dwelling units shall be permitted in all agriculture and residential zoning districts and shall require a zoning certificate. Permits. We're gonna change that word from certificate to permit like we had before.
Just need to do the search and destroy.
Okay,
In about 30 documents.
yeah. 521.6, application requirements. So all of those are all the application requirements. I'm gonna read each one of those. That's somebody that would need to provide to me when they get their permit. And then this, we added a definition. It'll go into Article 2. So the definition of accessory dwelling units is listed right there, which is the same as it is in the very beginning. Trustees, any questions about?
So I wanna just make sure I understand.
Mhm.
So this allows ADUs as a permitted use, but you do have to get a permit to do it. So it's not a conditional use.
Right, it's a permitted use, just like a
Right.
house. Like if somebody wants to build a house, they come to me, my
Right,
position,
Mhm.
and then there's requirements, you know, I
Right.
check certain things and we make sure that it matches and meets the setbacks and all that. But
Okay.
so it'd be the same, so it's just like
Yep.
building a second home on your,
okay.
so yeah, that's why it's a permitted use.
Mhm.
Now, when we talk about short-term rentals next, that is a
That is
conditional use.
conditional, yeah.
And that's why we put that little snippet in there.
And too bad for the person who has a small dwelling. I mean.
True.
In theory, they could build a larger dwelling and make that the primary and the original house, the accessory dwelling unit, as long as one was incidental to the other.
Oh, okay.
And,
Right.
and as long as that primary, the new primary dwelling unit met the setback requirements and
Yeah, I guess, that's,
in theory.
you could.
Cause I remember when we worked on this for the village, I was on the planning commission, and the people who were advising us on writing it did not want that to be able to happen. But I always thought it could make sense sometimes, especially if you have a. historic small-
saved,
Right.
yeah,
Exactly,
Yeah.
so.
I mean, the idea is to allow our residents to do this for a variety of
Right.
reasons.
That
Be it
just seems,
income,
that
be
just
it
seems common sense to me, so I say thumbs up.
saving a
Personally.
big farmhouse that the current residents, you know, need something smaller. Maybe they're aging and need something smaller, and maybe another family member is gonna take over the larger house. So, I mean, we're doing this, I think the zoning commission's intent is a positive one for the residents. And we have, I don't know the numbers now because I don't have them in front of me.
I wanna say well, I know short-term rentals, we had like 15 or 16 of them,
Yeah.
a lot of them were in.
I think there's
already
like
existing
12,
accessory
it's in the
dwelling
teens that we have in our township right now.
Right,
That have
are
somehow
gonna have to be
happened,
grandfathered,
they,
I mean,
they're grandfathered.
they're,
Yeah, they won't go through this process because it's already there, but.
so they'll never have to go through this process technically.
No. Anytime you make a change in your resolution, it's all,
If one of them has an accessory dwelling unit already that wants to become a short-term rental, you might need them to retroactively apply for that permit, because it does say to use as a short-term
That's
rental, any permitted accessory dwelling unit.
Hmm.
Because if there is an accessory dwelling unit in existence already, it may or may not have gotten all the proper building and health department permits if it wasn't done under
Yeah.
that's
the
true.
right, so that he might need to have them get a permit
Mhm.
for it, but that's not a huge, it's not a huge hoop to make somebody jump through to go to the,
No.
to, if they were gonna use it as a short-term rental and they weren't already. It's a pretty,
Should be pretty simple.
pretty small amount of red tape, actually.
Okay.
Just to verify that health and safety aspect.
Mary, do you want to entertain questions like we did last time before we move on?
Sure.
If there are any.
At this time, members of the public who want to comment or have questions about the 512 section. Or what was it, 512, yeah?
521.
521.
I messed you guys up.
I'm hearing none.
Hold on. occupation?
Everything's spelled right, Fred?
I didn't see anything.
No subject verb agreement mistakes?
It looks excellent.
Every once in a while we do it.
Are we doing short-term rentals next?
Short-term rentals, yes.
Okay.
Okay, the next section is 512, short-term rentals. Again, this is a completely new section. I will be reading most of this. The only thing that we did have in our resolution before is we have a bed and breakfast section that is now going to convert into this. And really that bed and breakfast was just a definition previously.
Okay.
So it's gonna fall under here and you'll see where that is.
And before he gets started, regional planning helped 3 townships add short-term rentals. Miami Township Zoning Commission did something really unique in combining short-term rentals and bed and breakfast, and I think it's really brilliant the way they came up with that and merged it to make it really user-friendly, and I applaud them on how they've approached this.
Okay, 512.1, the intent and purpose of this article is to establish clear regulations for the use of residential housing units within the township for short-term housing. These regulations are intended to provide balance between the need for short-term housing options within the community and preserving the residential character of the neighborhoods in order to ensure health, safety, and general welfare of the community. 512.2, this, the main piece of this is that lodging is limited to 30 days. That is what a short-term rental is, 30 days or less. And then this is where we added bed and breakfast operations in the last sentence, are also herein considered to be a form of short-term rental. Advance this up right here. Okay. 512.3, conditional use permit requirements. A short-term rental shall be a conditional use within agriculture and residential zoning districts. B, no property within the township shall be used as a short-term rental without first obtaining a conditional use permit. The conditional use permit is required to ensure that the proposed short-term rental use is compatible with surrounding land uses consistent with public health, safety, and general welfare of the township, and that the applicant can comply with all the regulations herein. C, a change in ownership shall not nullify an issued conditional use permit, but any subsequent owner must provide updated current emergency contact information. So what that is saying, and this was a conversation that we've had, and I've had in other places as well, is that the conditional use is associated to the property. So it's not necessarily associated with the individual that owns the property. So someone gets they apply and use it as a short-term rental. They, in a few years, decide to move or whatever they do, and they sell the property, someone else has it. That short-term conditional use is already in place. This is the difficult part because it's probably not something that I'm going to be told about, but we would need the new person that's going to continue that use to update their emergency contact information, because that's who I would contact if we were contacted an emergency or something along those lines, if something was happening at that property.
Is that true of all of our conditional use permits?
Yes.
They transfer with the property?
Yes. That's a true statement, right, Michelle? I can't think of
Yes,
anything it wouldn't be.
And it didn't used to be, but that is current case law, yes. As long as the use is continued and not discontinued for 2 years or more, it continues with the new owner.
Along this topic, we did have a little bit of discussion about some felt it would be nice to have like an annual renewal, but it's something that we can do even if,
We looked.
yeah, we tried to, we entertained that concept. So, but anyways, that's where we stand with that. 512.4, let me advance this real quick. All right, application requirements. All applicants for a short-term rental permit must provide the following information. So I'm not gonna read these verbatim, but you see them there. A is the owner information. B is verification of owner occupancy. C, emergency contact information. Let me advance my screen. D, a basic site plan. E is a parking plan, and F is the on-site or wastewater collection, approval from Greene County Public Health. I kind of glazed through those, they're important, but that would be what I would work with the resident to make sure all those things are present. Okay? 512,
So
oh, go ahead.
if somebody gets an existing Airbnb, I think you said, like, if they buy the property and it already has this on, but they haven't gotten, we've got 15 or 16 of them out of there.
Those 15, 16 that are already in existence are grandfathered in and can continue their operations
Right, so they're,
as they are.
even though they haven't received a conditional use,
Yes. Because they've already been operating with that use.
but they haven't turned in any contact information or basic site plan.
Right, so that use began before it was allowed and it wasn't addressed.
Yeah,
So if they can show that they've been doing it for a period of 2 years, then they've already established that use, unfortunately. And it's not something that you would want to make them go back and apply and go through that and then take away a use they were already using. It would be great if they would voluntarily give Brian their contact information. But they're grandfathered in if they're already doing it.
I mean, my plan, once this is officially on the books, is to contact, and you can find them just by hitting
Yeah, yeah.
Airbnb and seeing the area,
Burwell.
don't pick the dates or, yeah. So I will probably just to do it, is send out a letter like, hey, this is official, you're grandfathered in because you were doing it prior to we changed the resolution, but I would like to, to have an emergency contact information. But again, I can't
Yeah.
force someone to do that. But it is good to let them know, like, hey, this is
Yeah.
how it's run now, but you are
Yeah.
grandfathered in,
Yeah.
use that term. It would be nice if we could have people all fall under this, but, because it technically wasn't a use before.
Are in violation, but
It's kind of, yeah.
it's a tricky legal situation and it opens up a lot of can of worms. If they say no, do you want to take them to court to force them?
I don't know about
Yeah.
that, but, probably not, but, I remember when the village did this, I believe it was around that time that we started, having lodging taxes. Can townships have a lodging tax, or is that strictly a
I
municipality?
know this.
Yeah.
There is a 3% tax that can be waged,
Mhm.
and it goes to the county. I haven't gotten an answer, I've tried to figure this out. I've read, again, this is just
Right.
Google searches, it's not official, but that 3% could be split between a township or a
That
village
was what I thought.
with the county, but I don't know, I've tried asking those questions, but I haven't got an answer yet.
Okay.
So if you guys are ever talking to county officials,
All right.
that would be a nice thing to try to
It's
understand.
another way to sort of keep tabs on them.
I can,
Because you can Google them yearly, check to see who's doing it, and if the taxes aren't being paid, then that's like,
And
well, those that,
if you would choose to implement that, that would be done by resolution by the trustees separately. It wouldn't be
Yes.
part of the zoning.
no, I know, I'm
resolution.
just sort of wanting to think about, put everything on the table, right? And then do everything in public session.
I do know that is a requirement in, I don't wanna say all Greene County. I know we have a resident that charges that 3% to their customers.
Yeah,
And that 3%, as I understand it, goes
Goes
to
to town.
Greene County,
yeah,
Currently, am I a township resident?
yes.
I believe you,
On their own and charging a tax and sending it to the county?
well,
It's part of the,
technically, everybody should,
it goes through Airbnb.
Oh, okay.
She's on Airbnb.
I believe everybody should be.
I think so, I just can't confirm that because I haven't talked to
Yeah.
everyone, but I believe they're supposed to. So yeah, that's where it stands. All right, 512.5 is the facilities. I've not covered this, right? Yes. All right, A, short-term rental units may include all or part of any primary dwelling unit or permitted accessory dwelling unit, provided that the structure has received all appropriate occupancy permits from local, county, and state building and health departments, and the property is not actually actively declared to be a nuisance by you trustees. B, sufficient on-site parking shall be provided. C, a short-term rentals providing meals shall be considered bed and breakfast operations. And within bed and breakfast operations shall employ no more than 2 additional persons not living within the dwelling. So that's how we incorporated what we had previous that the board wanted to keep for bed and breakfast. D is signage must be in accordance with Article 7, and E, no reception, private parties or other types of gatherings are permitted. So this one is, like, we would love for zoning to be black and white, but it's a little bit gray. But what this is a way of trying to, we understand that some residents aren't gonna want a short-term rental next to them, and this is our attempt to at least provide in our resolution that large parties that make noise, it's not something that we necessarily want in our township, but that's gonna be a difficult one to enforce and go navigate around, but it's in there as our best,
It gives you a tool,
yes.
because if
I'm
you,
probably not-
you're gonna, it helps me to read the wording.
Yeah, sorry.
You're good.
I got two
Those,
notes
the
right there.
private, say you have a group that rents an Airbnb, has a big party. The owners of the property don't really do anything about it. They're like, oh, well, it continues to be a problem where you're renting out, and it basically becomes a party house, and there's a reputation of this would be a party house, the owners let it happen. Kind of thing. This gives Brian a leg to stand on when he comes before you and says, hey, this property actually needs to be declared a nuisance. They're violating point E. The owner of the property is violating the conditions of the conditional use to allow them to operate. It can allow you guys to revoke that conditional use or declare them to be a nuisance until they're complying with the conditional use, which says that they're not allowed to do that. Hopefully to kind of give some wording to them, say, hey, you're allowing your property to have private parties, you need to, that needs to be in your listing, that needs to be something that, if you're advertising this as a party house, it can't be, it's in violation, and it gives you guys some warning and some you're not gonna stop every party.
Yeah.
Unless you want Brian to work here 24/7 and drive around.
Yeah, no.
But I guess it's another thing to point out that this is not a carte blanche of short-term rentals are fine, do whatever you want. There's a systematic reason that the the zoning commission wrote it this way.
We had a house that someone was using, they had a couple different book sections there. And then someone had a large birthday party that was large,
And that would be covered under your events, your,
temporary use.
your public
Events.
events, that
Public
you
events.
covered last meeting.
So somebody possibly with a
Right.
Airbnb
Could apply for a separate conditional use for a public event that had very specific.
Parameters, and they would have to go through a public process. Okay,
Okay,
Sounds
good, moving on.
seems good.
512.6, these are owner occupancy requirements. Mess this up. Do A. Okay, the primary owner must utilize the primary dwelling unit or permitted accessory dwelling unit as their principal residence and physically reside there for a minimum of 185 days within the calendar year. So what this is saying is trying to avoid someone to just buy property it sells as a short-term rental only, where an out-of-state business could buy it and running it. We're trying to avoid that by making the primary owner live 185 days on the property, at least half of the year.
This is something that regional planning recommended for all of the townships adding this. And what we're seeing as the trend is large corporations buying up housing stock. When you have a housing crisis and residents need housing, and there's only so many houses available, say there's 100 houses and you have 100 families that want to live in your community, and 10 of them are bought up and become short-term rentals, that means 10 families are displaced. And those 10 families are not voting, they're not paying taxes there. Whoever's owning those short-term rentals is not registering cars there, paying those vehicle taxes. They're not calling when trash cans are left out or when there's a pothole in the street. They're not participating in community government. They're not showing up to meetings. they're not electing officials, and 10 houses doesn't seem so bad, 10% is kind of bad. And what you see in a lot of tourist communities, there are entire townships that don't have enough residents to have elected officials because so many of the housing stock has been bought up and is used solely for short-term rentals and second homes. And there are entire like beachfront communities where there's no residents long-term left. I don't see that happening here per se, but there is a larger tourist base here, especially around Yellow Springs and Clifton. You've got people that come in. It's lucrative for a company to say, buy up some of your housing stock, and you are short on houses already. That displaces residents. So by it does, and it creates an artificial housing crisis too. And then those aren't contributing back to your community in the same way. That the tax that you get from the rental isn't as much as you do from a resident who's here, earning an income or having two incomes in that home, registering multiple vehicles that goes to your road taxes. So this is something that regional planning, we worked really hard to try to find a different solution because there's a lot of people that don't like this. Townships are not allowed, unlike municipalities, townships are not allowed to limit the number of short-term rentals in a certain area. A lot of municipalities do that. They say a limit to so many percentage of the houses in a certain square miles, or no more than one every 3 blocks or something like that. Townships aren't allowed to do that. If it's an allowable conditional use, it has to be allowed as a conditional use in every property in that district where it is allowed.
Yeah.
And so that creates a dangerous situation where you can potentially lose your housing stock to some of these larger corporations, and we have seen that locally. So requiring somebody to live there half the year, or the combined owners, let's say it's a family home, parents die, multiple siblings own it, if they can each live there 3 months of the year and build that up to the 6 months, or somebody who goes to Florida for half the year could rent it out as a short-term rental the other. It allows them an income opportunity, it allows that property to continue being used, but it assures that you still have a resident who is invested in the community and care of that property locally. So that was the best solution we found so far. I'm honestly not satisfied with where it's sat, but I couldn't find anything better yet. And I would love to say that I'm gonna keep looking and find something better and come back, but I'm not. But Haley and Tim might hopefully someday come across some case law, maybe another township will come up with a brilliant idea that'll start getting shared. Brian goes to the conferences and the trainings and maybe he'll come across something that can do it better. And honestly, for now, this is the best thing that regional planning was able to come up with.
Yeah.
So.
And the counter argument to that is, and real briefly, it won't be as strong as that, is that it does take away from that person's rights to, property rights of like, hey, I own it, why can't I rent it out as a short term all year round? But yes, but the reasoning is in her definition. So, and I will tell you that there are some, I do know that we have some short term rentals here in our township that are already year round, and no, I don't believe anyone lives there. I believe it's listed all the time. So,
Yeah.
So that you'll still see that in our.
Grandfather.
Yes, right, that's what I'm saying, you'll still see it. I mean, I know one is on Fairfield Yellow Springs Road that I know of on a curve
Right,
with a pond. I know that one is,
yeah.
no one lives there.
So
But anyways, so that's.
reside should be reside, you read it correctly. It's typed.
Oh, the word is
Yeah.
singular?
Singular, well, it's a agreement problem.
Yes.
Must utilize and reside.
Okay, thanks. Fred was like, I was gonna tell him that one. Okay, so B just goes into how that is documented. So applicants for a short-term rental permit must provide documentation demonstrating compliance with that 185 days. So there are 3 examples of something I can use to verify with a resident that they do actually physically live there.
But not
'Cause it's-
limited to, and obviously if they're coming for a conditional use for this, and it's a family situation where multiple people own the home and they can show that they're each gonna stay there part of that 6 months, it's already before the BZA to make a determination.
Okay,
Yeah, or for confirmation of BZA, excuse me.
okay.
Okay, and then 512.7 is enforcement. At any time, the zoning administrator becomes aware that a property is operating a short-term rental without a valid permit, in violation of any provision of this resolution, in violation of any of the conditions set in the conditional use permit by the BZA, or in a way that constitutes a nuisance or jeopardizes the health, safety, and general welfare of the community, the zoning administrator shall declare the short-term rental to be in violation of this zoning resolution. And that would be with the help of the trustees, especially for the nuisance piece. All right, so this one will add and change a definition in our definition section, so it adds short-term rentals and changes our definition of bed and breakfast, just to make it a little bit more clear. That is all I have, unless trustees have questions on this one.
The 30 consecutive days, I happen to know somebody who has a short-term rental in the township. And I remember them saying that they had rented it out for 6 months to a group because they were coming here for a work thing. And it's the best for them to rent this house for 6 months.
At that point, it's a long-term rental, it
Yeah.
doesn't comply with, it doesn't need to get the
Right, but
conditional use
even
permit.
if they go back to then doing
Short-term rentals.
30.
Well, they would already have that conditional use, so that would be in place, rather they decide to rent it for 6
Right.
months, that's,
Right.
you could rent your place for
If
6
they
months.
rented it out for 6 months, and then another 6 months, and then another 6 months, and then another 6 months, and discontinued that use as a short-term rental for 2 years, then they would need to go back and get a new conditional use permit or reevaluate that. And really, that's what's best for the neighbors too, if the neighbors are used to not having people coming and going and coming and going and coming and going, but instead having one family or group of people there for 6 months, that's a change of use that should be
Okay.
reheard by the public.
Okay. Yeah, so conditional uses, it's 2 years.
Generally,
Generally
it's,
speaking.
if it's continued, if it's discontinued for 2 years.
Thank you.
Is that initially public comment?
Any public comments on section 512, short-term rentals? Anybody missed?
Wow.
Right, real quick, I think the old code had a limit on the number of rooms you could have for a B&B.
Yeah, we don't have that anymore.
It's gone away with, it's
Yeah.
not in the definition.
Yeah, we did rewrite some of it, because before it was only a definition.
But the floor plan has to be provided, or the layout, and then the amount of rooms has to be approved by building department for occupancy and the health department. So if you started turning every spare room into an extra bedroom,
Yep.
that ups the amount of septic capacity you
Yep.
need to have, so they would need to up their, make sure their capacity was still valid with
Yeah,
the
if
health
you-
department, and that's okay.
Yeah, if you add bathrooms.
Bedrooms, actually, not bathrooms.
I think so.
You can add
Bathrooms.
kitchens, you can add a kitchen and not need an additional septic,
Okay.
they calculate it by bedrooms and not bathrooms.
Green County is?
Yes, I was surprised by that as well, yes.
You're right, it does.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else, Miriam?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Well, do we, like egress, I know you have to, if you added a bedroom, you have to have egress, right?
That would be enforced by the building.
And that, but that's building, okay.
So you can't just put somebody in your chicken coop, call it a short
Or
term.
you're just in a
It's been
basement,
done.
a basement that has no windows,
Right,
right?
right, you
Because
would,
there's no egress.
that would be a legal bedroom, that shouldn't be
Right.
counted as a bedroom.
Right.
And that would be stopped by this, because that would be against the health, safety, and general welfare.
Yeah.
And townships are allowed to zone based on health, safety, and general welfare.
So if there was a current house in the township where somebody was violating that kind of thing,
It would be the building department
It
that
would
would
be the
need
building
to
department
enforce
that
that
would need to
part of it.
enforce it.
Yes.
The Green County.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for answering all my questions.
Absolutely.
I'm getting my head around our zoning code, and I appreciate your patience.
All right, 510 is home occupation. This is generally a new, I would just call it new because so many things have changed, but we had this just as a definition previously. That just kind of spelled out some stuff, but you don't really do uses through a definition of a term. So anyways, 510.1, the intent and purpose of this section is to regulate the joint use of residential structures as both primary residential units and compatible small-scale business activities in order to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the community, while at the same time not unreasonably interfering with a resident's right to earn an income from their place of residence. All right, let me take this up. Okay, all home occupations shall comply with the following conditions and requirements. 510.2, all home occupations are considered a permitted use and must receive a home occupation permit from the Miami Township zoning administrator, except as provided for in section 510.2. Ooh, I think that's off because that's the same section.
I think it's supposed to be 11, 10 or 11 at the
There was
end.
one down near the bottom, wasn't it?
Yes.
Because it talked about, except for, let me show you about the.
Point 3. It should be 10 point.
Oh, yeah, 'cause that's the
10.1.2.3. So where it says up top, no, it's not there. All home occupations shall comply with the following conditions. It should start with 510.1, not 510.2. The numbering
No,
is off.
510.1 is intent and purpose.
Oh, then yes.
Yep.
Sorry.
So all I'm gonna do is change this number,
Right,
pretend that
yeah,
didn't
that's
happen. So it's basically saying in the next section,
Right.
okay? All right, 510.3. Is that where I'm at? Yes. Instances of home-based occupations when operated in such a way, there are 1, no external markings or displays of business activity, 2, no increase in non-residential traffic or noise, and 3, with no complaints of nuisance, are exempt from the provision herein until such time as their business activities become visible to the public in any way, at which time they will be required to obtain a home occupation permit. This exemption is also extended to persons utilizing their residence to do computer-based work remotely for a company or a business that is otherwise has an appropriate primary base of operations. So that would be the example where someone would not need to get a permit. That is not visible, no increase in traffic, and there isn't any nuisance that has been created, defined by you guys as trustees as a nuisance. Every time that word nuisance, it's you guys that determine that. Okay? So we're basically saying, yes, you gotta do it for all cases, but here's some cases where you don't. Okay. 510.4, no more than 2 persons shall operate a home occupation or be employed therein, in addition to any residents of the premises. So residents, in other words, someone has a home-based business out of their house or their accessory structure, and their son works for them, that's not considered an employee because that's a resident that lives in the home already. So no more than 2 persons outside of who lives already in the home that may be employed by that business.
So an example of that would be you have a daycare and maybe you have an assistant that comes in, that doesn't live in your home, but comes in and works in a daycare, in your in-home daycare with you.
All right, 510.5. Okay, 510.5. All home occupations shall be conducted entirely within the dwelling unit or the permitted accessory structure, and the use for the dwelling unit and or structure for the home occupation shall be clearly incidental and subordinate to the overall use of the lot for residential purposes by its occupants. And we talk in these terms all the time, does that make sense? Okay. 510.6, there shall be no change to the outside appearance of the building or premises or other visible evidence of conduct of such home occupation other than A, no more than 1 work vehicle for each adult employee residing on the premises parked outside, and B, all signage must be in accordance with Article 7. 510.2 or 510.7, no traffic shall be generated by such home occupation in greater volume that would be otherwise normally expected in a residential neighborhood, and any need for parking generated by the conduct of the home occupation shall only be provided on or along the driveway on the same lot as the building used for the home occupation. So in other words, no on-street parking.
No turning your front yard grass into a parking lot.
And again, I know we talk about some of these things and it's nice if zoning could be black and white, but it's going to be a little bit gray. So what is normal,
Yeah.
increase of normal traffic? And technically, we try to write this as clear as possible. And then me in this position, it's up to me to determine what is reasonable. And so that it is a little bit gray in that sense, but we try to make it as black and white as possible. 510.8, if customers or clients are expected as a regular part of the home occupation activities, those visits are limited to between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. 510.9, there shall be no sale on the premises of commodities not produced as a result of or non-incidental to the home occupation. So in other words, if you make items that you are selling, that is acceptable. If you are a hairdresser and you might sell a few products that are incidental to the actual work, then you could sell those. But this is going to not allow a small mini mart on your property, because those would not be incidental to the work that you're doing. So we wanted it to be no sales, but yet you might have situations where someone could be a hairdresser and sells a few products, but they're incidental to what that person is doing. That's why it's written that way. All right, 510.10. Home occupation shall not include motor vehicle sales, repair or salvage of any kind, outside storage of construction, excavating, dumpster, or contracting or service equipment, and or trucking or rig storage or maintenance, unless enclosed within an improved structure.
I mean, you can do all those things if you enclose it.
Well, yeah, you could have that stuff inside an enclosed structure, because we wouldn't know.
I think the enclosed structure only
Yeah.
applies to the storage.
Oh, for
Storage or
the
maintenance.
storage piece of it.
The trucking and or rig storage or maintenance unless included. It's hard because commas, where do you break it? And the unless enclosed within an approved structure would be the trucking or rig storage or maintenance.
And the excavating dumpster, contracting service equipment, that all has to be inside.
Inside.
But you can do a dumpster service, or you can have salvaging business. No,
You cannot.
Cannot, okay. Could you rent dumpsters?
You could, as a temporary structure, sure.
No.
Oh, no, I see what you mean.
Can you rent out,
Yeah.
can I say, okay, I'm gonna have a dumpster, people have dumpsters, they're gonna deliver it to your house and pick it up in a few days?
I mean, can you have a dumpster on your property?
No, I'm saying,
Really, the last part, the unless enclosed within an approved structure is kind of redundant because earlier in the sentence it says outside storage of those things. But it does have that approved structure statement in there, which would say if somebody put up an unapproved tent or lean-to and then try to say, well, it's inside, all these junk cars that I'm fixing one part every 10 months is inside of this lean-to, but it's not an approved structure. Then
so basically, home occupations will not include vehicle sales, repair, no salvaging, no storage, no dumpster rental, no
Contracted service equipment.
contracting or service equipment, okay.
So if somebody were,
unless they can store it inside.
are those,
No,
are those,
Yeah, the way it's written is,
Yeah.
I thought you were saying that's just for, like,
yeah,
I call a guy, because I need a dumpster outside my house for a week, and because I got a dumpster, he's got like 5 dumpsters in places.
Right.
He can run that business in the township?
If he can have those dumpsters stored within inside an enclosed structure,
Okay,
an approved structure.
Okay.
So another example might be somebody who has a lawn care business
Yeah.
that has trailers of lawn care equipment. They can't just park all of that outside.
okay.
Trailer and a backhoe and a bobcat and another and another and another. Then their neighbors are living next to an industrial storage yard. If they have a barn that they can put all that equipment into, so the neighbors aren't seeing it, then that wouldn't really be a
okay,
problem.
so all those things are allowed, got it.
The intent of how this is written is to allow people to do it so no one else can see it. That's not exactly how it works, but that's generally,
To make it
we're
as,
trying to allow people to do businesses in their home if they need to
yeah,
for various reasons. but to limit the stress on neighbors that
Now, are there
don't
places,
live next to a business district.
are there zoning districts in the township that would allow things like motor vehicle sales, repair and salvaging?
The business
The
district.
business districts, okay. I couldn't remember the map off the.
I mean, that would, the BZA would determine that based on criteria that they would have to see where everything's gonna be laid out, and outdoor lighting,
I need
and
to
there are
go.
things.
I need to go and look. Let's see.
All right. 510.11, equipment or processes that create noise. There's a lot in this one, and it's very well crafted to try to catch everything. Equipment or processes that create noise, vibrations, glare, fumes, odors, or electrical interference detectable off the lot, if the occupation is conducted in a single-family residence, shall not be used in a permitted home occupation. No equipment or process shall be used which creates interference in any radio or television receiver off the premises or causes fluctuation in voltage, bandwidth, or other utilities off the premises. That's a lot. But again, just like we had talked another point previously, these are things that are put in there to give me and you, more importantly, the ability to, hey, this is causing conflict and a nuisance in our township. So,
Doing good, thank you.
are a lot of those hard to detect and gonna be hard to enforce? Yes, but they're in there and that's the best way that we found to write that. Okay, that would cover it. The only other thing we would add is definitions. And there's a definition of home occupation listed on the screen. I did have the current resolution on this slide as well, but we don't need to go into that. So that's it for me, trustees, or for this section. Trustees, you have questions about this one? All right, Marilyn, would you like to?
Any members of the public want to comment or ask a question about section 510, home occupations? So, pick Kellyanne.
So does this have anything, any bearing on like farms or ranches? Are those considered home occupations at all? Like if they're raising animals and selling the animals there or selling eggs or doing anything like that out of the home?
To answer that question, agriculture is exempt from,
Okay.
it's allowable use and
Okay.
exempt from township zoning laws.
Okay.
So those things are acceptable. I have to be careful how I answer that because if you turn that into a larger sale of things, it could be a different use that we're talking about. But the true aspect of agriculture,
Bona fide.
raising a farm animal's bona fide agricultural purpose, no, that's allowed, and there's nothing that we would implement or want to implement as a zoning department.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it can get more complicated, but I don't need to go into what ifs, but
Thank you.
yes, in general, yes, we support that in Ohio.
It's in the
demands that
Ohio
and-
revised code that
Yeah.
township zoning cannot regulate against agriculture and bona fide agricultural activities.
Okay, do you have any others?
I think we're done.
Okay, so I have two other things to address on things that have been addressed previously in the other two meetings. So one is, and we do have the residents, so please chime in, but I do plan on reading this letter, so I just want you to know. Okay, so this was talked about the last meeting that a letter was sent, but we really weren't prepared to react on it. So this is in reference to Article 10, specifically the variance section. So I don't have this ready to go. If you give me 1 second and I will pull this up so that we can reference it if need be. Article 10. So I apologize for not being ready for this part. Okay. I have it ready. I'm not going to reference this yet, but it's up on the board if we need it. Okay. So the letter that was received, I'd like to read this into the record, is addressed to the Miami Township Board of Trustees. I represent Peter Bozwinka, am I saying that right? Okay. And Chris Rodlitsky, thank you, who reside at 3841 East Enon Road, Yellow Springs, Ohio, 45387, Peter and Chris have been closely following and participating in the review and discussion of the proposed zoning amendments. They will be unavailable, this was written prior to the last meeting. They will be unavailable to attend tonight's meeting, which was on April 20th, 2026, and request that they be permitted to submit the following questions or points to discuss during the public comment this evening. Specifically, one primary difference observed in the proposed language is the modification of the variance standards. The old text specifically prohibits, this is in quotes, use variances in stating that, and again quotes, under no circumstances shall the Board of Zoning Appeals grant a variance which will permit a use which is not permitted in the district involved. And that comes from section, our current 1003.6B. The new text allows and provides criteria for use variances in section 1004.5. My client's question, whether the township is obligated to allow use variances, and if not, why would the township like to add use variances to the zoning code if it is not necessary? Moreover, the area, this is in quotes, the area variance revisions remove, and again quotes, applicant not at fault, end quote, and quote, deprivation of private rights, end quote, and quote, no special privileges criteria from the analysis of the variance request, and replaces them with less strict provisions. Is it the intention of the proposed amendment to make securing an area variance easier, question mark, and what is wrong with the old requirements? Previously, it was stated that the amendments merely update or simplify the language, but the amendments appear to allow new use variance not permitted under the existing code and provide an easier pathway for area variances. Is this necessary and why? And what are the pros and cons of the old code versus the new proposed amendments? Thank you for your consideration. These questions presented to my client, and it is signed by Derek Muncie of, I want to say, Basir, Greer, and Landis. Okay. So trustees, I wanted to read it. That is addressed to you, but I just wanted to read it into the record. And I just have 2 comments to make, not addressing everything on it, but just 2 comments to make to the trustees. So one is we must allow a resident to apply for a use variance. It is a very uncommon thing to happen, but we are required to allow a resident to conduct or apply for a use variance.
By the ORC, according to the ORC.
By court case.
Court cases have established that, yeah.
So the question of, okay.
And the second thing that I want to state from my position is, from my position and from the zoning commission, because we did discuss this, there was no intent to make an area variance easier. That's the only comments that I have for that. So I will hand this over. I do have one more other thing to bring up, but for this point, I have nothing else to say.
Do the trustees have anything to say on this? Thank you, Peter, for submitting this. I guess it's very clear that we have to, although our old code didn't offer use variance, we were in error that we didn't. And
I can read the Supreme Court case names into the record if you'd like to reference that.
so there are Supreme Court cases that are good. And then when I compared the two lists of criteria for area variance, I didn't detect that one made it easier than the other. I just want to say that. Peter, do you have anything further? Thank you.
All right, anything else on that section?
No.
Okay. The only other thing I would say is I did have a discussion with a resident that wanted to talk about the temporary use in public section. So do you want to speak on that? I can't give you permission to speak, but Steve Weary talked to me about it today, but I didn't have anything officially to present, so.
So,
Yep, that was
But that's up to
section,
you trustees if you wish to go into.
section 513, temporary structures, temporary uses and public events.
That's the one. Thank you for
Okay.
saying more clearly
Mr.
than I did.
Leary, would you like to speak then, or is that appropriate?
Sure, so,
And I have this on the board.
Yeah.
I can reference anything that, but this was already discussed.
I appreciate the kind of the proactive intent to figure out how we fit in public events to the community, whereas in the past 5 years, it's been, we just aren't gonna do it. Just a couple of questions, and as I read this relative to my personal use of my property and just knowing other people in the community, I'd just like to throw out a couple of things. I'll work within whatever gets signed up to. The first question I have there before I kind of frame up my comments is, just like we've talked a lot about like short-term rentals and being grandfathered in, I'm making the assumption that what I'm doing with my property is grandfathered in. And I just didn't know if there's a comment as I frame up the rest of my discussion.
Say it one more time.
That the things that I'm using my property for today and have been for the last 7 years would be grandfathered usages of my property.
Those were we did that as a temporary use.
Somewhere.
Okay.
So like the examples I'm going to use, and it's relative to your definition of a public event. So we just hosted prom last weekend. By the new definition, I now have to get a conditional use permit to host prom at my property. Since I've done that for the last 3 or 4 years, and I've hosted friends and families' weddings, different private events that weren't commercial in nature, there was no reason for me to come get a temp use permit. I'm just clarifying that those would be grandfathered in. I'm not going to need to come back and get a
If you were
conditional
to hold a new event that, if your prom is an annual event and that's been allowed, you had been gotten a conditional use before, that conditional.
There is no conditional
We did
use
it,
before.
we did
There
it
was-
as a, how our resolution was written, we did it as a temporary use.
Okay,
But not
And it
those
was-
events.
Yeah, but it
Just
was specific, it had dates assigned to it, as I understand.
The way the temp use was prescribed in the past is it was only required if it was a commercial event. So if you were taking money for it or charging a ticketed price, that's when the township said you have to get this permit. And so we really only did it for the Chappelle shows. That's the only thing I've ever got a permitted use for, or temporary use. All my other events were done as private events, which is I still consider them to be, and I take a little issue with the public event definition that I'll talk about in a minute. And so I've been doing all of those private events. That's why I built the structure. And so I'm viewing that as a bit of like, it's the same thing. If you were using a property as a temp rental, out of code, in code really wasn't specified, neither was this. So I just want to get some clarification on it. It'll make a difference to what I.
Yeah.
and your case was actually one of the ones that the zoning commission wanted to make sure that they provided a way for you to legally do that within the scope of the code to allow you continued use of your property in a way that was respectful to the community and could be regulated and continued and not just stop that use and not make you come back every time for a new temporary use permit, which was something that actually we couldn't really find good supporting language, which is why it was changed.
So maybe let me make a couple comments that are
Yeah.
the general ones about it, and maybe it kind of sorts itself out. So again, in the past, it's been a really broad temp use provision that a lot of people have problems with the definition and what's temporary, can you do it every year? So I applaud the efforts to get something more structured. When I did all my research 4 years ago and presented it to the ZC, what all other townships did is they had a temporary use for festivals, events, et cetera. That's what I think all but 2 of the townships in the county did. For whatever reason, we've made the decision to not go that route. We're going a conditional use, which for things like the Chappelle shows that repeat every year is actually a favorable thing, and that I get a permit once, I don't come back for it. What it isn't favorable to is all the 900 million other little tiny things that go on in the township. And let me kind of just describe it, right? So if you look at the definition, it's any ticketed and non-ticketed, invitation-only event, function or occasion, which is a group of persons are gathered in an otherwise private space, including hosted semi-public gatherings, such as weddings, parties, or other celebrations for someone other than the property owner or occupant. So I have my niece who wants to get married in my pavilion, it's a conditional use permit. I think that is way overkill. I want to throw a birthday party for my father at my pavilion this August for 80 people. I have to come get a conditional use permit. I think that is broad oversight, I think, to property rights, and is gonna be an administrative nightmare. Now, in the end, you're gonna be in trouble, because you're gonna be in this position where you gotta go, that's personal and this is public. It's gonna be hard based on what everybody brings to you.
Sure.
So all I wanna do is, like, ideas I thought about is, if it's a commercial event, or if I'm asking for it to be approved for all future years under this set of constraints, that makes sense, it's a conditional use. If it's a one-time event, why am I getting a conditional use? And the question becomes, if I get 72 conditional uses approved over the next 5 years, at what point is that the primary use? At what point do I make the legal case that's my primary use?
I don't,
So
yeah, go
I
ahead.
would ask the legal
Right.
questions on that one
Yeah.
a little bit. I don't know what the answer is honestly either, Brian. I think the issue, and it's really tough in zoning in general, but the broad definition of a public event is a little concerning to me. It captures a lot of things. Like, I've done all kinds of weddings, and I've been there for every one of them, for my nieces, nephews, friends from high school, that their kids are like my kids, and I still want to be able to do those events. If what the township is saying is that the BZA is going to tolerate me coming to them in the fall this year after this passes and say, I want approval for up to 6 weddings a year, 7 other TBD events, and 12 Chappelle shows, if they're going to approve that kind of a generic thing, then I can work within that. But my sense is they're going to be hesitant to approve something that isn't specific. I don't know. I just don't know how it'll work. And so is there,
But I would,
is there a way to limit through event size or type of event?
Yeah.
If I want to invite 40 people over for a fundraiser to my house, anybody in the township's got to get a
If
conditional
you're
use
the
permit.
host and you live there, that's your party.
It's not for me, that's not the way the language is written. You might decide as a zoning administrator, you don't have to apply, it gives you broad rights to do it. I just see a lot of conflict with what people are allowed to do and not.
Gosh, I wish you had been there with the zoning commission when we were talking about this and trying to figure out all the loopholes and all the intricacies. I would love to have an hour-long conversation.
I had written what I thought was a really stringent set of rules around events, because after we've done them out there, I go, gosh, if you're gonna do commercial events, you gotta have a lot of controls for safety and all that stuff. So I kind of thought it was going down that path.
Can I ask
Yeah.
what zoning district you're in?
Okay.
Okay.
And again, I don't, Brian and I talked about it a little bit, it doesn't mean that because I've used it for prom and Cresco employee event and things of that nature, where I know these people personally and I let them use my property. I'm not saying it was allowed or wasn't, just it was always treated as temp use was commercial only, so as long as I wasn't doing anything, so I never charged for weddings. And by the way, there's part of this that I would also ask, like, what problem are we trying to solve? So like the wedding thing, like what problem are we trying to solve?
Zoning is always trying, in township zoning, is always looking at the health, safety, and general welfare for the community. So at what point is it a health issue? At what point is it a safety issue? And at what point is it a general welfare issue for the community, your neighbors? And I think that's why a lot of the language was focusing on things like hand washing, restrooms, parking, traffic control. Those things all fall under that health, safety, and general welfare umbrella. And you have to remember that you have neighbors
Yes.
who may not want to live next to someone operating a venue all the time. And if that crosses into that being, as you mentioned, your primary use, it's not a permitted primary use in an ag district to have a public event venue as a permitted use. It is a conditional use.
It's the definition of public, so is there case law that defines what's public and what's private? So-
There's not a lot of case
I
law
know.
here, because a lot of what case law has revolved around this is ag tourism.
Yeah.
And forcing people to plant a small vineyard and have a bottle of wine
And-
to
and we-
allow them to do what you're already
We've
doing.
talked about me going that route, if that's the way I gotta go, that's the way I gotta go. It seems good, but all I'm just trying to throw out is, I've not heard of any issues anywhere where anybody is having non-commercial weddings weekend after weekend. What's happened is people have turned barns into commercial wedding events, and people don't like, I get that, I'm 100% for it. If you don't charge for those weddings, you don't have them very often, let me tell you. Because they're taxing, you know, and so we do, you know, maybe 2 a year, and it's all close friends and family, where through these generations, we've had these different events, just like anybody would on their farm with a nice pond and some trees.
And if you're only doing 2 a year and you're not charging for them, would the person who's doing that wedding be willing to pay the fee to come before the BZA and say, we're gonna do a wedding on this date, everyone will be gone by this date and time, we have enough parking for it, here's the expected number of people, and get that permit every time, just to make sure that it's not becoming an every weekend thing?
So we can, but, you know, some of these events, so prom, I got called 2 weeks ahead of time, so there's a 60-day notification period, and I just said, oh, sorry, high school, can't do a prom out there. There's so many nuances because we're trying to control now what are really small private events, in my opinion. I don't think they really rise to the occasion of being public events, but I've not figured out a way to write that definition down.
Until you have a prom event and there's an accident with a teenager on the main road leaving your property and it becomes an issue, that why wasn't this permitted, why wasn't this looked at, why wasn't there a traffic safety plan in place ahead of time? And then the township is getting questioned of why they allowed that use and how could they have prevented that accident. A prom, if you're gonna do it every year,
You do it whenever they call me. But I mean,
and they
since
should
COVID, I think they skipped one year.
plan ahead a little bit, but
Right, and so again, if the township wants to give me a perpetual conditional use to do prom, whether they do it or not, if we skip 2 years and then it's off, then I gotta come back again.
unless they put in there that it's perpetual and can go beyond 2 years.
Wouldn't be each under 513(5)(b), where it says each new public event, regularly occurring public events may obtain one conditional use permit with specific limitations on frequency provided for as a condition set by the BZA? Couldn't it just be a single?
And I'll give you like an idea of myself. So I could come to you today and I could go, look, I want a permit for 12 shows a year for Dave Chappelle and Friends of what he's been doing for 5 years. I want approval to have Donnell Rawlings use it on Sunday of Memorial Day every year for Sunday Fun Day.
That would be a separate event.
And I want prom. So we'll do 3 different hearings and I'll be heard on each one of those and hopefully get approval for all 3. Then every week, things come up and we use our property for what it is. And so that's where it starts to get really kind of hairy to me of what's a public event. You defined a public event that's going to affect a lot of people in the township. Mm-hmm. It's a private gathering of more than 3 people for something that's not for you. A small fundraiser is covered under this. You got to get a conditional use permit, and I think it doesn't rise to that occasion. So again, you can look at it and go, how about you write code that gives the zoning administrator the ability to approve one-off events with 15-day notice. So I can just come to you and go, hey, I want to do prom out there, and it's one time only. I'm not asking for perpetual use. And you go, if it's these parameters, we're good to go. And only the repeating ones where I'm actually now getting kind of a license to do this on my property and repeat, maybe that rises to conditional use.
But at what point do you say it's repeating and it's?
I think you go by the conditional use stuff. So it's like, it's going to be in the favor of any landowner if they want to do anything every year or repeatedly. And so what I'm hearing is if you skip 2 years, then you're going to have to come back and ask for it again because that use has lapsed. Or you could at least write that into the code.
Yeah, my lack of not answering you isn't.
No, I don't know how to figure it out either, Brian.
There are
I've stared
things
at it a
to it.
lot.
And when you're working with the board, I mean, this is what we discussed for hours and hours and try to get it.
Would have loved to have you in those meetings again for hours. I would love to.
It's sort of like what I've said transparently at a lot of the hearings is the times when I've probably gotten in trouble out there where I created way too much noise and was up too late was my own personal events. Literally my own personal parties. And so there's nothing, the ordinance has to stand for themselves and you have to be a good neighbor. So you have to, having the property there, you have to learn how to use it responsibly. The issues are never when we're using it for other events. I mean, the prom was over by 10:30, they have to clean up. My worst thing was they used confetti balloons. So I just don't, it's just as public, and I'll stare at it more and give you any suggestions I can think of. But when you say public events is for anything other than yourself, you just covered my dad's 85th birthday in August. I got to come get a conditional use permit. It's not for me. not an occupant, not an owner, you would sit there and go, that's not what this means, but if I start doing them every Saturday, then somebody's gonna go, well, we did mean you can't have a birthday party for your relative. You can't pick off all 7 of your relatives and have them every other weekend.
Can I ask a question? Is what's written, in your opinion, better than what was existent before?
It's both. So if I split, for example, a reoccurring event like the Chappelle shows, where you can get a conditional friend, and forget me, I'll come to BZA every year. I'm starting to enjoy these hearings. But to call them every year and have exactly the same conversation, that's kind of dumb in my opinion. So I think there's that piece of it for if I'm coming to you and saying, I want to do Barnum's and Bailey's Circus. If I'm Young's Jersey there, I want a circus in my park and I want to do that every single year, then I think the conditional use works. It's now the definition of public event makes all this other stuff conditional uses.
I asked because the process for changing the zoning resolution, and it's something as a zoning guru that I preach in every single one of these meetings with the zoning commission, is that the zoning resolution is supposed to be a living, breathing document that is ever changing and ever improving. So if this is a step in the right direction, but you've opened up concerns that need continuing to be addressed, and the trustees feel comfortable putting this in place and then immediately having the zoning commission say, hey, this is an issue that was brought up, let's work on fixing it, and reworking the section we just passed, and continuing to evolve and grow it and take those concerns that you're bringing to light and go, how do we make this even better? Because believe me, I sit there and I try to come up with every possible scenario and loophole and cover as much as I can, and it's impossible. And the zoning commission does too, but it's something that they can take your feedback and genuinely go back through and go, okay, this is getting feedback, we need to address this because we didn't think about that, or we didn't consider how that was worded, and we need to change this wording or shift this wording to match our intent better.
If the general consensus is that I'm grandfathered for the activity I've done for the last 5 years and that I don't take advantage of that, then this is gonna be fine. Otherwise, the only thing I absolutely want changed is the lead time needs to be 15 days because I'm gonna come to you every couple of weeks with a new conditional use request. By my right. And you're gonna call the BZA in. And I'm not trying to do that to be facetious. I'm telling you, like, this is the way things come
And I
up.
would say that generally it wouldn't be grandfathered in unless it was the exact same event.
And-
Which if
and I
you
have-
were holding the same niece's wedding with the same amount of people on the same date every
No,
time, then that would be
My council
the same,
feels
but-
strongly that
Yeah.
because we've done a wedding or two every year, that usage under the same circumstances as a short-term rental that's been used for short-term rentals is gonna be grandfathered, would be grandfathered. Now, if I did one wedding 10 years ago and one 2 years ago, that'd be different. If I've done three
Like
private.
2 years without doing one and then.
Correct, and I haven't, and if I've done, a couple, kind of private family parties, whatever else you call them, they're with friends and family, I want to be able to demonstrate that, including the Chappelle shows, and that's going to be kind of the usage limits. Now, it takes responsibility on both sides.
From that standpoint, would you be willing to go before the BZA to get one conditional use permit moving forward to say,
Yes,
to host weddings
yes.
without details that people have to be gone by a certain time of night, you can't have
100%.
more than so many per frequency.
There's not a lot of conditions.
All the same
BZA
conditions
can
that
come
was
up with anyway.
discussed,
I'm
and have
100%
one
for that.
indefinite so that you've got it.
This is where I kind of put myself in their shoes, and I go, gosh, I'm giving these in perpetuity, I'm giving these for TBDs.
The intent of how it was written was to allow someone who's operating
Yeah.
a wedding facility casually like that, where it's not every weekend and it's not their primary activity of the use of the property, to get one of these to cover those for.
I'd be the first person coming, I don't ever want to do more than 2 weddings a year, and I will personally be at them, I'll put all those restrictions on myself, because that's the way we do it. It's probably the smaller events that are now getting caught up under this public event definition that will be the bigger problem.
This is good feedback for me.
And again, that's why I just don't know whether you can go one time and it's a different approval, if you can, and if I'm coming to Brian every Tuesday for a new approval for next weekend for another public event, he has the right to go, I think that's way too many out there. I've been hearing from your neighbor. It doesn't then pull in the BZA. Because getting a BZA to approve me for a 15-person event that I want to have, a yoga class. I got one scheduled for August. Yoga class.
Let me
interject if I can. So, Marilyn, here's my suggestion. I appreciate what Steve's saying, and I appreciate the regional planning's view of this. I would like to request that we continue this 15, if you choose to approve it tonight or at least the next meeting, move forward with these with the caveat, I can only do this in my personal, guarantee, but that I discuss this with the zoning commission soon. I mean, we have something for the agenda for this Thursday, but the following meeting. Now, they also set their own agenda, so mine is only a suggestion, so I can't guarantee, but I think it is important to relook at Article 10 and to relook at public events. And there is one other thing that, Laura, you brought up, it's in my notes, but it's about permeable surface when it comes to parking lots. That was another one that I'd written down that I would like to engage in a conversation with the zoning commission to address these in a future text amendment.
And I think I asked specifically about this exact question, and I just checked the minutes, and it's not, it just says we asked questions that were answered in detail. So I would need to look at the video to remember, because it was exactly that question. Like, if somebody's having a wedding, it's like pretty much the scenario, and I can't remember what the response was at that time.
Yeah, there just may be some criteria, like owner's got to be present, or it's just the same thing you're doing with ADUs or bed and breakfast, where you're saying it's more reliable if you have
I
the
think it
owner
needs to be
present
a
that's
long
going to be used
discussion
in a way that's
with the
consistent.
Okay.
And you obviously be invited, as any public, you can come to any.
Excuse me, Brian,
Yeah.
can I ask a question? May I ask a question? Okay, are you saying that the public hearing will continue in the next trustees meeting?
No.
No, okay, I misunderstood.
Yeah, that's not what I'm suggesting to the trustees.
Okay, if you guys can clarify that at the end of the conversation, I'd like to know.
So what Brian suggested is that we go ahead and vote on whether to pass these 15 tonight, but with the understanding that he is going to strongly suggest to the zoning, or to the zoning commission,
Yes.
that they consider this definition of public event and look at this section again, and look at the question of permeable pavements that I raised earlier.
But when you said it, in addition to the question of public events, in the addition of permeable surfaces, right before that, you also said Article 10,
Yeah.
which is variances, which is why I was confused as to where that fit in with the future work of
Oh,
either the zoning commission
those
or the
are-
open public hearing.
Those are things that were brought up in this 3-part briefing that I've been doing, this public hearing, that I feel is worth taking back to the zoning commission, because they're not here to hear these concerns, and they're the ones that write, they're the Congress, they write the law. So I'm just trying to verify with the trustees that I plan to take it to them, because there still is a resident concern about Article 10, there is a resident concern about public events, and there's a trustee concern about a particular one. Even though they're going to pass, it's still worth continuing to talk about.
And if I may, there is a way for trustees by resolution to order the zoning commission to look at a section and modify it and or work on wording by resolution. That is another way to start a zoning text amendment. It can come from a resident, it can come from the BZA or from the zoning commission starting it, or it can come by resolution from the trustees saying, by resolution, we are requesting the zoning commission look at the definition of, say, public events as an example, and rework this and reconsider it based on public feedback, and that can also start the zoning text amendment process.
Okay.
That can be a third trigger.
Okay, if it feels like we need to go that route, we could do that. But
It's,
Because Brian
Okay.
can't force the zoning
Yes.
commission to consider something, but you guys can by
Well,
resolution request it.
Okay.
from Mr. Waring's point of view, I would think you'd want a resolution, he said, like, we're gonna talk to them, okay? It's the difference between, yeah, we're gonna pass it, and then we'll talk about it, rather than saying, we're gonna pass it, and then we're gonna pass a resolution to have them,
I still,
have them,
Have them could reconsider the wording or start the text amendment process on this definition, to revise this definition or revise this section.
To do that by resolution, though, it would be easier to do it at our next meeting,
Right,
because we
yes.
don't have the resolutions has to be in writing, so, we could do that.
You always have that power, anything, the zoning resolution that you want addressed.
Okay.
You don't have to wait for the zoning commission to agree with you, you are allowed by resolution to request it.
Great, thank you, that's all.
that is the last thing that I have.
All right. So we do have a proposed resolution, is that correct?
Yes.
In your
Should
packet.
have it in your packet.
Alice should close the public meeting before we vote on that.
Do we need to vote to close the public?
Yes.
I entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the 15 text amendments.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All for yours. Thanks, Cindy.
Okay.
We have a resolution.
It would be resolution 2026-17 in your packet.
Trustees, I have on the board all 15 text amendments.
And they're
Just by title.
they're listed in the.
Well, let's go over them again, just to be sure.
That's why. Do you want to take that? You don't need me anymore, do you?
No,
Okay.
we're done. Thank you, I appreciate you.
Yes, ma'am.
Entertain a motion to adopt the 15 text amendments listed.
Well, read it by title.
Entertain a motion to adopt resolution 2026-17
17.
to adopt the Ohio Grant Zoning Reform text amendments. Whereas the Miami Township Board of Trustees has received from the Zoning Commission to legislatively adopt the following text amendments to the current Miami Township zoning resolution on April 3rd, 2026, and they're listed there. And whereas the Greene County Regional Planning and Coordinating Commission provided and affirmed recommendations for the aforementioned text amendments on March 25th, 2026, now therefore be resolved that after due deliberation, the Miami Township Board of Trustees legislatively adopts the above text amendments to the current Miami zoning resolution with several agreed upon grammatical corrections and suggested corrections from the Greene County Regional Planning and Coordinating Commission. The text amendment will officially go into effect June 4th, 2026. I hear a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Any further discussion? Hearing none, may we vote?
How many readings are we having here?
That is a good question.
Unless it's passed as an emergency, tonight would be the first reading, and it would not be a vote. The vote will be at the next meeting.
And but it would still go into effect 30 days after tonight? Or would it go into?
The resolution states going into effect June 4th. I don't know what the,
It's 30 days, so it would be after the vote, 30 days after.
30 days after the vote. This vote or after the second vote?
so it would not be a
But
vote.
we're,
Tonight would be a reading,
Oh, tonight would be a reading.
unless you pass it as an emergency.
Okay.
For the,
for the zoning
Zone.
text amendment process in the ORC, you're not required to read it and then vote separately unless that's an
Okay.
internal township
No, that's-
process.
No, that's fine. If you could give me that.
Yeah, that's under 519, I can, yeah. I can
Great, thank
pull up
you.
the section.
Okay.
Because they've had a public hearing on it, they have to vote within a certain time frame after the end of the public hearing. There's a time frame there that they have to vote within
Makes
that
sense.
time frame.
Okay,
Yes,
so this is slightly different than other.
Yes.
yes. I didn't realize that was applied to zoning, but that makes sense. That, because that covers the season for the first and second readings to begin with. Thank you.
Therefore, we can vote tonight.
So it has been moved and seconded to adopt resolution 2026-17, the Ohio Grant Zoning Reform Text Amendments, as presented at the three-part public hearing. Ms. Asplin,
Yes.
Mr. Mutcher,
Yes.
Ms. Moyer,
Yes.
and the resolution is adopted.
I want to interject something.
Of course, Brian.
I would, again, I've said it before, but I'd like to say it again. Thank you to Michelle Hudnell from Regional Planning and the rest of their staff that helped out.
And likewise, and right back to Brian and their zoning commission. I have never seen a zoning commission work this hard as they did.
And more text amendments to come.
Yes, good.
We're always making it better.
personally.
And thank you, trustees.
To the resolution, asking the zoning commission to review the three concerns that come up. And, okay. Thank you all.
It's ORC 519.12.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
so, fire department report.
Good evening, everybody. I'll just highlight the things that need action. As far as personnel and staffing goes, Brian Burnett, one of our full-time firefighters, has submitted his letter of resignation. And he still wants to request staying on as a part-time firefighter. He got another position close to his hometown, Cincinnati. Zion Robinson, I recommend hiring Zion part-time. He's a Columbus resident and recent graduate of the Columbus Fire Department's cadet program. Very young, positive individual that come to visit us last week, and we interviewed her, and we really liked her, and we think she'd be a great fit for us. And then with Brian resigning his full-time position, we recommend hiring Dan Watt, who's been with us part-time for 6 months, upgrading him to a full-time position. As far as our operations go, you have my report here. We had 2 pretty busy months. The only thing significant happened in the last couple weeks is we had a very busy shift. I think I put Friday night, it wasn't Friday night down here, whatever night the windstorm came through. That I think between midnight and 7 a.m. we had nine different incidents. Was all related to the storm itself. A couple minor building issues we're getting taken care of. Apparatus goes, we're still waiting on our upfits for the new vehicles that came in. We're on a waiting list for that. We've got all of our quotes for our air packs. I'm kind of putting that a little bit on delay because we have the grant application process that's getting ready to open up. That's what the rumor is. That's what we've been waiting on, the grant application process. And our SCBAs are going to be a good candidate for that grant. So other than that, that is all I have, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Did we get a copy of that,
Yeah, did you?
the colorful one, or your?
I did not get copies of those made.
That's, I don't need it for right
Okay.
now, I can look at it after the meeting, I don't think I'll have any questions, but if I do, I'll ask.
Yes, I forward them electronically.
Yeah, Chip and I are working out a process trying to.
Maybe I would forward them a little bit
efforts,
too late.
And then it didn't get duplicated at
I
all.
forwarded them at 5:15. Oh, you guys are just kidding.
We're getting there.
Yeah, no worries at all.
I have a question about, I hear that you have a lot of confidence in Dan Watt, we're gonna offer him a full-time pension position. Do we need to do that by resolution? Does anybody know? Are we allowed to just?
I think
Have not in the past, I would have to look into it.
I mean, well,
we've been hiring people.
I will be hired part-time. We initially had a resolution to hire when we expanded the staff. And then who have we hired since then? Justin and Brian himself. I'm okay not having a resolution for that. I just didn't know if we had to.
Yeah, there's been, since I've been here, there's been no full-time brought on.
Justin and Brian, when Gavin Van Meter and Georgia left,
Okay,
we hired Brian and,
that was before my time, so I
oh, okay,
can't answer.
But those were replacement positions,
replacement.
not expansion.
right,
And when
okay,
we hired the community,
right.
Oh, that's right.
Okay,
paramedic,
let's
and
just
that
do by
was not
resolution,
done
I
by.
mean by motion then.
I'm not seeing it on the list of resolutions in 2025.
Okay,
Jim, quick question. Does Zion have any on-the-job experience?
Very little. She graduated high school in 2023, so yeah. When we're interviewing her, we're interviewing all these questions about your past history. A lot of it had to do with high school, so it's kind of a learning experience for us.
And she's being hired at our lowest position, which is part-time EMT.
Yes.
Gotta start somewhere, I suppose.
Yeah.
I started a volunteer. I want to say that I remember that Brian started here as a volunteer, and he became part-time, then became full-time pension position, so it's been nice having him, but I'm glad he's staying on part-time.
Yeah, and with the 3 documents that I have here that'll come to you electronically, I did include Brian's letter of resignation in there, where he says a lot of great things about the department and the people and the things that he's learned in the past, so.
We'll make sure you have those first things in the morning.
Okay, thank you so much.
And he ends with deep sadness.
Well, I'd entertain a motion to hire, I suppose we could do it at the same time, Zion Robinson as part-time firefighter EMT effective immediately.
Today, yes.
And then the hiring of Dan Watt for a full-time pension position to replace Brian Burnett.
Effective May 11th.
Is that also firefighter EMT?
Yes.
Second? Or I'll move, I'm sorry.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, may we vote?
So moved and seconded to hire Zion Robinson as a part-time firefighter EMT and Dan Watt from part-time to full-time effective May 11th, firefighter EMT.
May 11th or May 12th?
May 11th is what she said.
Yes.
May 11th, okay.
Brian's.
I wrote down the wrong date.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Brian's
Yep.
last day, okay. Mr. Mutcher?
Yes.
Ms. Aslam?
Yes.
Ms. Moyer?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you.
Cemetery report. Dan is not here for the cemetery. He said there were no burials this week, so everybody's background. And road report. Chris, do you have anything for the roads? How they looking?
Well, other than being full of trees for a while, I believe they're all passable at this point.
Okay. Fiscal officer report.
Couple things. We have your payment listings in your packet, and you should receive your financial reports email, I believe Saturday morning. They are in the folder to be signed along with payroll and a handful of checks. Yellow folder on the desk. They'll be out all day tomorrow for signature. If you have a chance to do so tomorrow, then I can get them in the mail. Those are ready to go. The year-end 2024 Hinkle that had to be redone has been completed and filed, and the auditor says that it is in hand. Therefore, our auditing company, Curry & Associates, can now schedule us for the audit. I have not heard from them as to when they're looking, but they do have all the information that they need at this point to make that happen. So we'll move on with that. The bank reconciliation unfortunately was delayed again because in the process of entering things that had not been entered prior, we realized that there were no funds appropriated to pay the tax fees from the county for our
Tax collection.
tax collection fees. So I can't enter the deposit that we got previous for that purpose. So I would present to you resolution 2026-18 to amend permanent appropriations to make those funds available to pay the fees, so I can then enter the deposit so that I can then finish the bank run.
I so move. Or does it
Are we
need to be
waiving the
read?
readings?
I
Again,
guess
this
we
being
need-
an
sorry.
appropriations measure, we've got to take 10-day effect. It doesn't need to have a second reading.
I get used to this.
I'm sorry,
I'm trying to get used to this.
Me too.
as well. It's a learning process all around, trust me.
I'd entertain a
I
motion.
did have a motion, I believe, Ms. Askin?
I did say it, but I don't know if I said it, I think I might have said it before it was officially read aloud, but
Do
it'll
you
be
have a
read.
number?
Yes, 18.
Okay,
Okay, and
So there's your motion.
I'll second.
there's a motion.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? I'll just say that we had appropriated some money, not enough because we haven't been doing this. And this is no new expenditure. We're just, instead of putting the net amount into our coffers, we're putting the gross amount and then paying the tax fees up. And the
It's a much cleaner entry and it's recommended, if not required, by accounting practices to make it happen this way. And it just hasn't been done, so now we're doing it.
So Jim, last year when you said at the end of the year, hey, what are these tax collection fees that we never spent? Can I spend that money? It's $12,300. And the answer was yes, because we had subtracted them already, put the net up. Now we're giving you more money, but then we're taking the 12,000 away. So you end up breaking even. You end up breaking even.
Yeah, I had something to buy for that month.
So it's been moved, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Been moved and seconded to adopt resolution 2026-18, amendment of permanent appropriations for the stated accounts. Ms. Askin?
Yes.
Mr. Musher?
yes.
Ms. Moyer?
yes.
Resolution is adopted, thank you. There's Chris,
Yes.
we have a safe deposit box, and you are the only one in the world who can open it. The bank strongly recommends we have a second signer on the box. Can you and I make a trip to the bank and
Sure.
make that happen?
I've offered that for years. Never had anybody take me up on it.
Well, it got lost in the shuffle somewhere. Well, I'm not even, there's a list of what might be in it. We need to, of course, we'll verify the inventory and then decide if there's anything else that needs to be there. We're paying for it. We should be using it.
You found my list?
appropriately. I found a list.
Okay, that is the list. And it hasn't been changed since it was written, so.
Well,
whatever
we will make that happen, so Mary's aware of that.
Yes.
There are no gold bars on the list.
No,
So they're saying,
that we're aware
they
of.
say just two people is sufficient on that?
For right now, I mean, that's, yeah, it shouldn't be one person because.
No, I agree,
It's
100%.
dangerous.
Yes.
Okay, we did receive payment from Glen Helen for the rental at Grinnell Mill. They are requesting, suggesting that the possibility that they do this on an annual basis rather than monthly. I don't feel that I should be the one to make that kind of decision because there are stipulations in the lease that I know that Marilyn had questions on, and so I'm bringing that to you as the board to decide whether we should continue monthly or if an annual payment is
And this is the lease for the Grinnell
for the
Mill.
Grinnell.
Could consider, it seems like one could possibly consider quarterly payments or semi-annual. Like we wouldn't have to do necessarily all or nothing, but we should have a public discussion.
I have no objection either way.
We have a very nice lease. I think maybe David Newhart wrote it for us. It's very nice and it spells it out all the contingencies. I have some reservation because I want to make sure that everything's being followed. Earlier this year, there was almost an insurance claim about a tree that fell and they were going to give it to us. I went and read the section on insurance and it said that they're supposed to have so much insurance for it, for example. And it says, and the lessee, which is us, no, the lessor, has the right to look at the certificate of insurance to make sure everything's copacetic and everything. And I asked for that, and I guess I was ignored, so. And then I thought, well, we haven't really, and it's really spelled out, the terms of going I think it goes until August 27 is when it expires. And I guess until we took, there's so much I don't know about that. I guess for my purpose, until I know what exactly the lease calls for and what's being, where we are on it, I think the month to month looks just fine. If they wanna
And
do-
is it stipulated month to month in the lease?
No, that they pay every month.
Yeah, but is that stipulated in the lease?
Oh, it just says you shall pay the rent at the first of every month, and this is how much interest you'll pay.
So it is stipulated.
It is stipulated.
Yeah. That would require a change to the lease, so I would not be comfortable making a change to the lease. Certainly not without legal advice, for sure. And I would further move that, I would like to somehow get that insurance certification that you asked for months ago. And I think it was before I came on to the board.
Yeah, I'm not clear, because we have quite a bit of insurance on it. We have $1 million worth of insurance on it, and so I wasn't sure if we're doing that in lieu of them doing that, or why they haven't.
Well, it shouldn't be if it's stipulated in the lease that they have insurance
No,
and
it's-
that they show us their insurance, we should be able to see that insurance. So,
I told Lisa, the bookkeeper, I've been coordinating with on this. I'll tell you would have to discuss and decide. I'll just let her know that was the decision, and I can ask again for the insurance information.
And I recognize there's a lot that I don't know about the Grinnell. I think I was trustee for 3 years before I realized that we owned the Grinnell Mill, or somehow owned the Grinnell Mill, or don't own it, or I would first admit, I really, there was a very interesting historical thing happened that I don't understand the details to, a very collaborative effort on a lot of people. We have been asked to pay the taxes, and they referred to, when last time we were asked to pay the taxes on the parcels that are in their name, they referred to a 2004 lease that provided for us doing that. So they said, we'd like to, because of 2004 lease provides that, we'd like to call in that thing. And well, since then, there's been a 2017 lease, so that doesn't mention it. So just, and I think everything's probably great. I just don't personally understand different relationships. And I know, Chris, there's probably a big old history, a story behind all that that's probably too long for this evening.
It's not that long. Obviously, property taxes are for property, and the Glen owns the property that the building is on, but it's being used for a commercial use, and that affects property tax. And probably 2017 is when it was determined that they would be exempt for everything but 25% of what would be the assessed property tax on the property and the structure.
They would be what?
Exempt,
For everything but 25%?
and the 25% would reflect the use of a bed and breakfast, a commercial business within the building. Since we own the building, we decided that unless we told them they could not use the building for a bed and breakfast, which would mess things up with new lease, then we would be responsible for the tax portion reflected of the use commercially in the building. That's why if you look at the tax bill that gets sent every 4 years, because they never do it on time, but that's neither here nor there. It usually runs $500 to $700 a year, something like that. But you could imagine what tax on that property would be if it was, a McDonald's. That's the story.
Why do the tax bills say that the owner is Glen Helen Association.
Glen Helen owns the property that the building is sitting on.
And the
It's
township
it's the
owns
use,
the building?
we own the building.
Okay.
It's the use of the building that's changing the taxable amount.
Okay,
So is it, just so I'm clear, so obviously I get the part that Glen Helen owns the land, we own the building, and then Glen Helen basically owns the business that's being operated out of that building.
That's correct.
And they are paying the tax on that business portion. Is that right? That's the
I don't know what-
25%?
I don't know what taxes they may occur,
Mhm.
but we are paying the 25%, which was considered to be from the auditor, the amount of the building that was being used for commercial use, making it taxable.
Okay,
Now,
so they pay 75% of the taxes and we pay
they
25%.
get exempted from
Exempted.
75%.
They get exempted and we pay 25%.
And we pay, oh, okay, I see, okay,
Yeah, I was
got it, got it, got it.
First two.
Okay, so the county exempts them to that degree,
Mhm,
and then we pay the 25%.
mhm. Because our building is being used for commercial purposes, whether we own the commerce in it or not, it's being used for that purpose.
And why does the county have no deed for that building? That's a longer story, we don't have to hear it tonight.
I would like to.
Well, you don't deed a building, you deed a property. We have a bill of sale of the building and a lease for 99 years on the building, but no deed per se. When we took the building over, the building came with 3 acres of land. Well, once Glen Helen decided to incorporate all their properties into one parcel, that 3 acres went away, which doesn't really matter because we are only using a quarter of an acre or something that the building's sitting on. I mean, it was great. We owned 2.75 acres across the street, across Grinnell Road, into the South Glen.
Ah.
We didn't
okay.
own it, we leased it, let me put it that way.
That's interesting.
But that went away.
Okay. So that is just all now part of Glen Helen and isn't even a separate parcel? Is that what
Right,
you're
it's
saying?
never been a separate parcel.
Okay.
They would not sell us the parcel. They refused that, and we understood. So we leased the parcel. It wasn't a parcel, we just made an agreement that 3 acres, and it was drawn out somewhere, that 3 acres would be the portion that we leased for 199 years.
Okay. Wow, interesting. Thank you.
the Mayans who put that together.
Pardon me?
The Mayans who put that all together.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay, I will continue my discussions with Lisa and we'll let you know what I come up with. Last thing I have, I continue working on tax status with our utilities. Documents are filed. I don't know if they're gonna notify me, I'm just keeping an eye out on the next bill and hoping that it's coming through, so. Oh, I'm sorry, there's one final thing. In the process of moving the table, I found in a metal attaché suitcase box, a dictaphone.
Yep.
Transcription machine.
No. It's just a tape recorder.
The booklet says dictaphone transcript something. I'm just going by that. I
Okay,
don't know what it is.
yeah, but that's what it is. It's
Okay.
a tape recorder, and we used it for zoning commission BZA meetings
Okay,
in the past. I mean, it could be considered obsolete.
I'm sure
This
it
point.
is at this point, but,
It's a cassette.
can we,
Recorder.
I'm sorry?
I'm like, y'all can sell it, just let me know.
Well, that's my next question, is should we dispose of it by sale? Brian said his auction house might take it. I would know Chief has an online something. What would you prefer that I do with this?
I say we donate it to the Yellow Springs News.
Gotta take it today.
If there's money to be made off of it, you know we're not good for it. So try that first, but then come to me.
It has to be virtually worthless now. I
I
mean,
think,
maybe.
I think
Cub Scouts or something would like to play with it.
It is old. I mean,
Honestly-
it's in wonderful condition, but it's old.
The Yellow Springs News does a service to the township, I would be
I mean,
perfectly fine.
If there's a
donating
motion
this
to that
worthless-
effect, I will let her carry it out of the building. I don't care, I just,
We'll take it. It has to
I
be
move-
declared
We'll carry it to your car for you.
okay,
And then it can be disposed of at our discretion.
okay, and how do we need to declare said obsolete? Just a motion, or does it need to be in writing?
We've done it in the past for old trucks and this, that, and the other thing, but it's just a motion.
Okay. Then I would ask for a motion to declare said machine obsolete.
I so move.
I'll second.
Maybe vote, because surely you have no other comments.
It's been moved and seconded to declare the dictaphone. I'll get the specifics so the name is in the minutes properly. Declaring that machine obsolete, and eligible for disposal? Or does it have to be a separate motion?
Probably separate,
Declaring it obsolete, Ms. Aspen,
Yes.
Mr. Mucher.
yes.
Ms. Moyer.
Yes.
And then to dispose of said machine?
While we're on old stuff, we took apart that table. It's,
Oh,
Brian pointed out it was a global Wernicke, which didn't mean anything to me. No, what was it?
It's a good brand.
It's a great brand, and I looked, and the tables are like $700. What is the history of that table? Where did we get it, Chris?
I believe Margaret supplied it when we moved over here.
Well, we're in the middle of a declaring obsolete, and so we should probably finish that first.
Oh,
and
okay,
then
I'm so
we can-
sorry. I didn't realize that.
unless we need to do the same with the table.
I'm
We
not
might,
ready to-
but
I'm not ready
Let's
to-
let's
Did we vote
finish
on
the
that?
dictaphone.
Yes, we did, I did.
I thought we were done with the dictaphone.
No, because now we're gonna dispose of it,
Now we need
right?
to dispose of said dictaphone.
Right,
I move that we dispose of dictaphone
right. By giving it to the Yellow Springs News?
reporter.
I'm gonna get in trouble for this.
I don't think so.
Lauren, I'm not making any claims of its condition, but the last time it was put in that box, it was working fine.
Okay.
It
looks
looks, we're taking it as is.
I have the motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded to dispose of the dictaphone by donating it to Yellow Springs News for their community service. Ms. Moyer?
Yes.
Ms. Mucher?
Yes.
Ms. Asplin?
Yes.
Motion carries. Now, do you want to talk about the table, or is that necessary?
No, but we're gonna hold on from the table.
Then I am done, thank you.
Okay, on my,
And thank you, Brian.
what's next on the
for
agenda,
helping.
buddy?
Zoning administrator's report.
Ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 3 permits were issued, a detached shed on State Route 343, new sign on Yellow Springs Road for the, I don't know the full name, but it's a church, just to the north of town, of the village. And then we also issued a permit for access to a township road on Snipe Road. So this is, of the 3 parcels of land of the old Welch farm, the furthest west will now have a driveway of Snipe Road. It didn't have an address before, it was just a parcel. Dan signed that last week to give access to that road. So that's it for permits. The Board of Zoning Appeals, I do have one, they obviously have not met, but I did send this to you via email, but I would like to recommend Michael Vincent, who lives on Meredith Road. He's a Meredith Road resident, to the BZA, because we have that 1 slot left, and that would bring it back to a full 5 members. So hopefully you would like to do that, and I will let him know.
I read his letter. I was impressed with his enthusiasm and his work experience. And being new to town and enthusiastic about land use, I would move that we appoint him to the 5th seat on the BZA.
I second that motion.
Any further discussion?
I also read the.
Can I add one thing? I apologize, it's your turn to talk, but this will be, hopefully, if you do it now, effective immediately, and then it'll run through December 31st of 2030. Because this would be Amy Anker's position that she would have renewed in January, but she chose not to.
Okay.
So it would be effective immediately if you could, and the term would end on December 31st, 2030,
Okay, thank you.
5-year term.
I was gonna ask that.
Most of a 5-year term.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to appoint Michael Vincent to the Board of Zoning Appeals, filling the seat vacated by Amy Anchor. Who's effective immediately and ending December 31st, 2030. Ms. Moyer? Yes. Ms. Aston?
Yes.
Mr. Mutcher?
Yes.
Motion's approved.
Thank you. That's all I have. There was no zoning commission because I briefed 2 meetings the last time. Sometimes theirs falls weird. That's it, thanks.
Okay. Old business, second reading, we have to read this again.
Just the title?
Second reading of resolution 2026-16 to expand an employee position to a dual role of zoning administrative assistant. That's resolution 2026-16. Do I have to call for a
We need
motion?
to have a vote. When a motion to approve, yes.
I'd so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this amendment 2026-16. Any further discussion? And hearing none, may we vote?
It's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution 2026-16 to expand employee position to dual role of zoning administrator and administrative assistant. Ms. Asplin?
Yes.
Ms. Mutcher?
Yes.
Ms. Moyer?
Yes.
Resolution adopted.
Thank you.
And by the new rules, it takes effect in 30 days? Or the old rules?
The existing rules. How's that?
Existing rules. All right, cool.
Okay, okay, so you're moving on.
New business, Board of Speakers report on IT cybersecurity committee report and recommendations.
Yeah, so let me see if I can. So basically, we met and I have a report of the tech meeting that I chaired earlier this week. And we're working on compliance with HB 96, which is the law governing cybersecurity. And one of the ways to help make us more secure and allow us to implement some of the software that we need for that security is to consolidate our websites and especially our email and like our OneDrive so that it's all on one server. And while we're doing that, we also want to adopt the best practice. It's not required by HB 96, but it is a best practice for governmental agencies to not use .org or .net because they don't give as much of a sense of confidence to people. And in an era of spam sites, spoof sites, and scamming, it's really important that gov sites, which are more regulated as to who can actually have them. Pretty much anybody can get a .net, anybody can have a .com, anybody can have a .org. It's really much better for it to be that we use that official suffix. So I had this clear in my mind what we needed. And I wrote it in my email to, and now my computer died, so I'm having to pull it up on my.
You did give me a copy if you'd like.
Yeah, what I said is, need a motion to, so I want to approve the plan to change over to this .gov suffix, and also to allow us to spend monies to advertise this change. We plan to advertise it in Yellow Springs News. I think we will definitely be sending announcements to the other government agencies in town, putting it on the local public access station, and then also sending every resident a postcard. And I'm getting quotes on postcard, and the first quote came back, if we stick with black and white, find it. It would, the first quote came in at $1,500, or color would be $1,653. So I'm getting one other company to quote, but I don't have that full quote yet. So Cindy is working on the postcard. So what I would like is I'm making this motion to change to the .gov suffix for both our website and all our email addresses. That'll include the firefighters as well as us. Right now, we all have different emails. We're miamitownship.net and they're mtfr.org. So we will all be Miami Township GCOH.gov. And so we make that change. Our website would become Miami Township GCOH.gov. And so to make the change and then to advertise it. And that is my motion.
So the advertising includes the postcards and the Yellow Springs News.
Yeah.
So about,
It'd be maybe about, it looks like it should come in under $2,000 if we do the postcard. And that is up for debate. If you think it isn't necessary, one thing I will say is the old addresses will all continue to work for some time because it'll be a redirect. And so it will invisibly redirect. However, if we email you directly, like if you email us and you send it to miamitownship.net, it's going to come back as a gcoh.gov. And so that could be potentially confusing to people. So it is important that we announce it and that people are aware we're making a change. So I thought including a postcard, we do have a lot of residents who don't use computers that much. So I think there is a case to be made to just make sure every voting resident gets a postcard with,
so I move that we go ahead and merge the two, what are they, domains, or
Yeah,
into .gov and advertise it as we see fit, not to exceed $2,000.
I thought Lori already.
I did
made
kind
the
of make that
That's
motion,
what I
but
was
that
saying.
is a much clearer motion, clearer statement of the motion I was trying to make. So
Okay,
We'll reword it and.
we can consider
have
that
motion
a
and
second. Yeah.
If that's acceptable.
sure. Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Like a little.
Oh, Fred,
All that information that's currently available on the current website, will that all,
The only thing that's changing is the name. Everything else will be the same.
so it'll all still be there?
Yes, yes. Just the.
Will the security of the information that is there now, will the security upgrade, will the security be better for the information that is there now?
We are in the process of doing lots of security improvements. So
So
Security-
will the security of the information that is there now be improved, or will you just be improved on everything that happens after the change? You see my point?
I'm sorry.
no, go, if you understand me, say, go ahead.
I mean,
It would be everything, Fred.
Yes,
It would all be improved security?
Yes.
Thanks, I'm sorry.
There's a lot of different things, including ADA compliance for sightless people and all kinds of things.
Since Fred chimed in, I just wanted to suggest that emails provide the opportunity to have an auto respond.
yes,
So you could have an auto respond for, say, 6 months, and anytime that anybody sends an email to you from one of those old addresses, that automatically auto responds asking them to update their information.
That's good.
and that is a great idea. And I think I actually wrote that down
it
in
is
one of my
part
notes.
of Tech Advisor's recommendations, so yes.
Yeah, much cheaper than.
It's been moved and seconded.
Well, I think we'll do the postcards anyway, but, yeah.
There's a lot of people who aren't gonna know what it was. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the recommended move for our URL to .gov, and to advertise as appropriate, the cost not to exceed $2,000. Ms. Aslam?
Yes.
Ms. Moyer?
Yes.
Mr. Mutcher?
Yes.
Motion's adopted.
Last time we had a, disagreement over whether or not we need a motion to adjourn. Do we, I'll entertain, but I'll
Currently a
entertain.
motion and no vote, just by acclamation.
I so move.
And I claim it over
Okay.
adjourned.